how do you handle buffer or margin in your projects and in your life? One of the things that I'm working on right now is a really complicated integration project that is challenging because of the fact that it has so many different teams working on the project that are distributed around the globe. And in the new world that we work in, this is pretty common for us to have very distributed teams that work at different times of the day, and they have to be very outcomes focused. Communications can be a challenge for sure. But what I've also figured out is that many of the teams have different project management practices or disciplines. Some don't have as much rigor around managing the what if factor, the buffers, the margins. They don't have the same discipline because they're so focused on moving from work project to work project to work project that they claim that they don't have the time to deal with the minutia, as they would say, or the mundane administrative tasks and things like that. But when we fail to focus on allowing ourselves enough margin for error, and things become too tightly stacked, what I find is that it has a rippling effect over time. It's very corrosive. And so I would definitely encourage you to think about that when you're thinking about your projects. But I also want you to think about that from a standpoint of your life. It's super important to have margin in your life. And this requires not just discipline, because this has the tone of making us feel like we're failing when we don't do it. What it requires is intentionality. So be kind to yourself when you think about your own life margin and your rituals and routines that you have that you're pouring into yourself, but allow yourself enough buffer. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that because you're so busy that you actually don't have time to install these margins and buffers in your own life. That actually says, I'm not in control. And this is what we want, is we want to be sovereign in our own decision making as much as we possibly can. We want to be a willing participant in our life. So that's something to think about, not just in your project management discipline, when you're servicing your customers, when you're managing your teams or working with your teams. It's also super important when you're thinking about your own personal self, your own life margin as well too. Thanks. Take care. Stay salty.